All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on what time zone you're in here. It's 1 o'clock in my time zone. I'm going to do my best to talk while I watch the email, or excuse me, the session chat. So if you guys have questions or something, just put them in there, and let me know whether or not I can answer any questions you got while I got. So this actual seminar, I think we entitled it something about cams, right? Just kidding. So this is supposed to be more of a basic legal topics for cams, and I can't see the whole list of people that are in the room. Oh, I can actually. I do have a button, so it looks like we have a whole bunch of cam stars and performers in here. So just for fun, let's do. I guess we're not going to call it a poll because poll is going to not work right. But if you're a cam performer, why don't you guys just put in a number 1 into your chat log? So just type 1 and push enter so you can see. Okay, we got lots and lots and lots of. Wow, that's a lot. Well, the good thing, Colin Roundtree, I know he's here. He didn't put a 1. Otherwise, I'd probably have to kick him from the group. I think he's the last person I'd want to see on cams. All right, cool. So we have a huge group of cam models, and that's awesome. It's fantastic. So a little bit about me, guys. If you haven't already met me, my name's SIlverstein. My online handle, so to speak, is myadultattorney.com. I've been in the adult industry for probably about 15 years now. I think I actually, many years ago, in the time before time, I started in this business by running pay sites. Before actually I was in law school. So it's my experience goes way back to when. But now I run a law firm, Silverstein Legal. I'm based in Detroit, Michigan. I'm also licensed in Arizona, DC, Georgia, New York. And we also practice out of Florida through my counsel office that we have near Orlando. So everything that my office does is we kind of cater to adult entertainment businesses, models, performers, workers, etc. So what I wanted to do today is I actually wanted to kind of take it a step back for a lot of you cam models who are all here, and I wanted to kind of talk about some basic stuff. Now, when I say basic, I'm not trying to say like, hey, like I'm not going to teach you guys how to use a keyboard. I'm just going to actually talk about some basic legal stuff that a lot of times cam stars don't think about. And is cam stars okay? Are you guys okay with me referring to you all as cam stars, or would you rather I go with something different? Yes, it's okay. Okay, we are sorry. Well, it's difficult now because nowadays in this era of political correctness, if I say something wrong, it's like, oh, you said cam star, that's offensive. So I gotta be careful. Oh, you see, look, Cactus Flowers and models is good. So Colin says camera artistes. Yeah, well, let's just go with anything that Colin doesn't say. So we're going to talk a little bit with a little bit of basics. And one thing that a lot of people forget is that as a cam star, you have to remember right from the start that you are your business. And people forget that. They're like, well, what does that mean? You are your business. When I say that you are your business, what I'm saying is that you're everything. So, I'm going to pick on anybody who's here. It's not going to be Colin, but let's just pick on Lacey Bloom, for example. I saw her name in the middle, so we just pick Lacey out. So Lacey Bloom, who I believe is also a cam star. Lacey, do you use you use Lacey Bloom as your cam name? Yes, perfect. So for Lacey Bloom is her brand. It's everything. So she has to think of her brand as a business. And I know that it's like, wait a minute, I'm the business, I'm the person. Well, you have to take it a step further. So the first thing we're going to talk about here today is actually the very notion of setting up an LLC for yourself. LLCs are a limited liability company. Now, oftentimes I'll get into the different business structures that you can set up for yourself. You could have an LLC for yourself, you can have a corporation for yourself, you can have, depending on what state you're in or what country you're in. Obviously, we have international models here today also, so we have to, be cognizant that some of them might have different structures outside of the US. But basically what ends up happening is, remember that ultimately, if your entire brand is you, which it is, and that's how, we're using our friend Lacey Bloom as the example right now. Lacey Bloom is everything. So Lacey Bloom should be an entity. When I say an entity, there should be some LLC out there. It shouldn't actually be Lacey Bloom LLC. That's kind of like an important little subnote for everyone. When you're forming your company, don't make it your name and don't make it something that identifies with adult. The reason is, of course, that when eventually you go to get your business bank account and they see, for example, your screen name is Long Legs That Likes to Fuck, we're going to have a problem getting a bank account. So we got to stay away from that. A lot of people, I've seen some really goofy stuff where people come to me and they say that, hey, my bank account got shut down right away. So what's the name of your LLC? And it's like the name of the LLC was Big Juicy Boobs. And I'm like, okay, well, that's, going to generally happen. So you can't do anything like that. But you want to have an LLC. And the reason why you want to have an LLC is because you want to have a business. By having a business, what you're doing is, instead of you being individually liable for everything that goes on, you have a business. And an LLC, just like a corporation, you get protection from lawsuits. You get protection from different state and federal laws that you're going to want. And the other big thing, of course, is good old-fashioned taxation. There are benefits to setting up an LLC and having a business entity as a CAM model. As a CAM model, a lot of times you don't think about like a lot of the expenses that you have that are deductible. For example, camera equipment, new laptop, your new website designer, believe it or not, even costumes, outfits. I'm trying to think of other crazy examples. Sex toys could even potentially be an extreme. Photoshop, your licenses to your different thing. Well, Lacey just said rent. Rent could be, but the way you would have to do rent is basically you would have to have a portion of whatever you're renting would have to be designated as your office space. So then you could actually deduct that portion, because the government says like, okay, well, if you have a home office, you can't just claim your entire rent. You can only take the proportional share of what's being used for the office space. So if you have a $4,000 apartment rent, and say you're only using 20% of the entire square footage for your shoot studio, well, then at that point, the only thing you'd be able to deduct is 20%. But going back to the whole idea of forming an LLC, something that people don't think about, and I saw someone comment a minute ago that said they've heard me say this 1,000 times and they still haven't done it. It is not that complicated. There are services out there that can help you create a Delaware LLC that are literally, we are talking about less than probably $300-400 to get you everything you need, including the company set up, a registered address, because all LLCs, you need a designated agent, a resident agent. That's the person that's willing to accept service on behalf of the entity. So every company needs it, and there's usually a fee with that. So again, we're talking about probably $400 at the top end to give you everything that you need. To answer Cactus Flowers' question, no, I do not recommend LegalZoom. I would rather you have something over nothing. The problem with LegalZoom is that LegalZoom doesn't understand the specific issues that the adult entertainment industry faces. They're not familiar with the stereotypes and all the problems that as an adult performer you go with. They don't understand that your privacy is insanely important. We have to protect you from potential stalkers. We have to protect you from the potential crazies in the world who want to do you harm. We have to be cognizant of the fact that you are going to need a bank account, and that there's a lot of banks that if they associate you with adult, they're going to shut you down. Stay away from Chase Bank, little side note there. But ultimately, what you have to really think about here, guys, is that, again, not having a business is the wrong start, because right from day one, everything that you're going to do in the CAM industry is going to be within your business. Once you have your LLC set up, what you'll notice is that, a lot of you, I'm sure, are Chatterbait models. Well, when you go to Chatterbait will allow you to create an account, not in your name, but actually create it in a business. And so now, by creating it in the business, you're not taking the money individually. The money is going to your business. This is just yet another example of why it's so important to take advantage of having a business. Now, hang on, I'm just going through the Vicky Lee. Okay, I just opened a Chase account. Bad idea. Go somewhere else. I'm trying to go through here. Man, you guys are typing so fast I can't even read it. Is an LLC the best company type to work around this new California independent contractor laws? Great question. Catherine Kane, love the question. Okay, so here's the deal. If you were in California, I would actually tell you not to form a California entity. Did you guys hear what I just said? Loud and clear for you California models. Don't form a California entity. It is a horrible idea. There are numerous different states such as Delaware and Wyoming that are very simple to get mailing addresses and everything you need to open up a company. California companies are very difficult to open. They're very expensive. And of course, we have this horrific situation in California where independent contractors no longer exist. And in essence, everyone is an employee. But to answer your question, Catherine, which is an amazing question, you should not be looking at a situation where you're trying to put all of your roots into California, because you're going to run into this AB issue, which is, of course, California's amazing law related to independent contractors, where everyone is just causing a mess. But that is a phenomenal question. Jen Davis said, someone said never tell a bank you are an adult, but if you earn money from a company like Chatterberry Club before, the bank can Google the payment. Okay, so Jen, you asked a very good question, and a lot of the good companies are actually very cognizant of that. And so like companies like Chatterbait and stuff, when you get your payments, their bank identifications don't come in as Chatterbait. So when you see your payment come in, it won't be from that. So just something to think about there. But for what it's worth, guys, again, there are banks out there that actually don't really care about adult, but at the same time, they don't want you to be obvious. So when the bank gives you their application, says, okay, you're opening up a business bank account, what is your business purpose? You can say you're in online advertising, which is completely permissible, and it's completely true. That is what you're in. You could put in that you're in the social media business. That's completely true. If you designate that you are, in adult content, though, you are going to have problems, and a lot of people make that mistake. So again, though, going back to the first big thing I wanted to talk about here is how easy it is and what a great idea it is for you guys to have an LLC. If you guys, so just a little thing on the split screen that I have, and I think it should be on your screen, you guys should see it over here. I recently launched a product called Adult.law. What Adult.law is, it is a subscription legal services built for CAMs. It's for CAM superstars. See, instead of saying CAM stars, I said CAM superstars, which all of you are. So this is a service specifically, and within the subscription service that I've created, I have all these videos about why you need the LLC, how to do it, what to do, and then all these other educational videos. And it's all geared for CAM models. So I know that one of the biggest things that I've been getting over the years from people is they've been saying, yeah, and yes, we cover escorts, we cover sex workers, let's say we would call it conventional adult entertainers. I know that's strange to say, but I guess the old day of two people just showing up to a hardcore shoot doesn't exactly exist anymore. Yes, Julie, we help Canadians. Yes, we represent escorts all over the world. So this is a service that again, it's a brand new concept. We actually just launched last month. It is phenomenal. You guys should totally check it out. And we have different subscription plans where, say, for example, you just want the educational videos to teach you guys what to do. We have a plan for that. If what you guys want is you just want, you guys want some individual one-on-one consulting time, for example, we have subscriptions for that. And so you can actually get like one-on-one time with me to talk about your specific issues. So it's adult.law. Check it out. And that's that. Now, moving back to the fabulous world of CAMs, let's talk about the next big thing. And the next big thing that we're talking about, cactus flower, I can answer that question. It's kind of more of a adult laws like the Netflix of porn law all over there. Yeah, thanks, Colin. That's good. All right. You see, Colin's a good marketer. All right. So what we're going to talk about next, guys, is we're actually going to talk about the fabulous world of social media. Okay. Now, as all of you who are on here knowing, I'm assuming that a lot of you have created your own social media presences for your CAM, your CAM identity. So just for fun, why don't you guys push number 2 if you guys have your own social media identity. There we go. You see how much fun this is to actually get you guys to do something? All right. So basically the whole world is using, except for Pax and Chris, everyone is using social media platforms. So here's the thing that you guys have to think about. And this is a huge thing that people just don't think about. Now, remember, we're talking today about how you are in the business of yourself. So let's use Jen Davis now. Jen Davis, assuming that's your cam name, your business, Jen Davis. Every follower that you have to look at as a business asset. And this is something that a lot of people don't do. So every follower that you have on Twitter, every friend that you have on Facebook, you should be looking at a piece of gold. There is an inherent value in every single one of those. Now, unfortunately, we live in this time where we don't know if one day Instagram is going to kick you off. We don't know if Twitter is going to kick you off. We don't know if Facebook is going to kick you off. We really don't know which major social media platform is going to be next, which is why if you are a cam model, you must take this step on every single one of your platforms, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, what have you. You need to have alternative contact information for your your followers, members, what have you. Let me explain to you why. Because at the flip of a switch, let's just say Twitter takes down your account and you had 100,000 followers. What you're going to want is a social media backup, because every single one of those followers is worth something. Each one of those followers that you got is hard work. There's a value to them. You want to make sure that you've communicated and keep an independent database of different ways to get a hold of your users. If for whatever reason your Twitter account gets shut down, Twitter's not going to say, okay, no problem, you can come back in to get your followers. It's not like it's not like when you move out of an apartment and they're going to give you 2 days to collect all of your personal belongings. So what people forget is that, again, you don't have a right to these platforms. There's no legal right. I get this question all the time where people say, hey, I lost my Twitter handle. I lost my Instagram account. I lost my Facebook account, what have you. And then all of a sudden they say, well, can I sue them? Can I sue Twitter? Can I sue? No. When you sign up for Twitter and you sign up for Facebook, there's a little box that we all check. I've done it too, where you agree to their terms and conditions. You are at the mercy of these platforms. They can throw you off for any reason they want. People they say to me all the time, they're like, well, I didn't violate this rule or I didn't violate that rule. It doesn't matter. Always in the back of your head, you need to understand that all of these social media platforms can keep you or throw you off for any reason whatsoever. There is no, can I write a letter begging to come back? It doesn't work like that. There is no, hey, my First Amendment rights have been violated. Let's get that thing out of the way. There's no First Amendment rights on social media. The First Amendment would apply if the government was somehow discriminating or stopping you from speech. Twitter, Facebook, etc., they have the full legal right to do anything they want with the speech that you have. In fact, we could even use YNOT as an example. If you sign up an account for YNOT, even YNOT they have the right to cancel your account. They have the right to do whatever they want. You're signing up and you're agreeing to abide by their terms of use, their terms of service, terms of use, etc. So going back to the second big lesson that I wanted to give you guys today, for every single one of you cam superstars that are here, go on your Twitter pages today. If you don't have backup contact information for each of your Twitter followers, it's very simple. My old friend Brad Mitchell from Mojo Host is in love with Excel sheets. If you ever walk into his office, his whole office is like Excel sheets all over the wall. Start an Excel sheet where you have each member and you have that member's their Twitter, their Instagram, their email address. Get an alternative contact. So for some reason, if their Gmail account gets shut down, you'll have an ability to contact them. You have to be, there's no insurance policy. You guys always hear about people saying, okay, well, can I get insurance for my business? Well, of course you can get insurance for certain types of claim, but there's no insurance policy for social media followers. There's no insurance policy for friends, for your posts. So make sure that you guys have created some mechanism that you're backing up. Because if you've worked your ass off, so again, we'll use another example here. We'll just pick on someone. We got Lexi V, for example. Lexi V might have, hundreds of thousands of followers that she's worked extremely hard to develop them. It is, for those of you, maybe some newer cam models that are here that think that camming is easy, it is not. I represent cam models all over the world, and it is hard. It is hard work. It's not just a matter of, you know, being able to shake your boobs. It's a matter of being able to communicate with people and really grab their attention, and so that they become engaged with you. It used to be that people wanted, you know, as many followers as humanly possible, but that's not real. That's not really the way it is anymore. Now you want as many engagements as possible. You can have 1 million followers, but if only, you know, 10 of them are engaging with you, well, your other 900,000 followers are worthless. But so it's very important, again, that you guys are taking the step to protect that. All right. So we talked a little bit about LLCs. We talked a little bit about social media and making sure that you guys are backing up all of your social media accounts. Now, let's play another little survey here. So for those of you that are paying attention, which it seems like you are, if you guys shoot with more than yourself, meaning if you shoot with your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, what have you, push the number 3 for me, please. Okay, so we got lots already. Actually, I thought it was going to be more. That's it? It's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, only like 5 of you. All right, well, okay, there you go. Chris Youngs, yeah, of course, Chris. Yeah, Chris spends more time with both of his hands than anybody else in the room. Okay, now for those of you that are shooting with other people, okay, this is another huge area of things that are completely just left out the door. Okay, you guys have to remember that now you're shooting content, and so let's say you're in a relationship with somebody, okay, and you know, little secret about relationships, guys. I'm going to tell you something. All relationships end badly, or else they wouldn't end. You can quote me on that, because it's the truth. And so for those of you that are all in love and you think you're in this wonderful relationship that's going to go on forever, nothing bad's going to happen, forget about it. It's not reality. All relationships end up having problems when they end. And so what you have to make sure is that, well, okay, now you filmed content with your boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you. And at the time that you were making that content, they're like, oh, you know, I'm so happy to I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be doing this content with you. This is great. I'm out there. We're having sex online. We're making a ton of money, what have you. Well, now you break up. Who owns the content? If you're in a relationship, if you are creating content, if you are camming or streaming content with more than just yourself, it is no different than content production. You need to be getting correct model release and 2257 documentation from your partner, because otherwise, what ends up happening when you break up with that partner and the partner now goes and DMCAs your content all over town and starts complaining that you don't own the rights to them, or they sue you or what have you? I'll give you guys a perfect example. So one of my clients, Mojo Host, phenomenal hosting service provider for those of you that are looking for friendly adult hosting at completely horrible, I'm just kidding, at really good prices. One of my Mojos came to me because one of their customers actually got letters from a couple. It was a breakup. They were a husband and wife, but they ended up getting divorced. And a husband and wife were fighting over who gets to control the content, who gets to control the website. And guess what ends up happening? Now you're in court having to litigate adult content. And I'm going to tell you right now, as much as everyone who's in here today is fine with talking about adult content, as much as we're all okay with this particular subject, there are still a lot of people out there that are not comfortable with it, that they're not comfortable with talking about adult content. The very idea about talking about sex in public or sex on video is so repulsive to them that, you know, it's the end of the world. And you don't want your potential issue to be litigated by one of those people that are going to be so against you that you're going to be in trouble right from the start. So you have to think that if you are creating content right from the start with someone else, it's no different than if you were on a conventional porn set. You got to get all of your documentation. You've got to get your model releases. You've got to get your 2257 documents. You've got to get all of the documents that you need so that if, again, I certainly hope for those of you that are hopeless romantics, I certainly hope that your relationships last forever and you never have this issue. But unfortunately, as a lawyer, I don't get the latitude, so to speak, to believe in that. So the fact is that you have to prepare for it. So then we talk about, like, okay, another thing to think about with documentation. Now let's go back to how we originally started today's kind of conversation. We talked about today's conversation with all about how your brand is you. And, you know, I see Violet October, so we're going to pick on her. The Violet October brand is the Violet October brand. at some point or another down the line, who knows when, Violet might want to sell her content. She might want to license it out to someone else. The first thing that a company is going to ask before purchasing content is they're going to say, okay, we need to see the model releases and we need to see the 2257 documents. If those two things aren't there, no one is going to license the content and no one is going to buy the content. So using Violet as an example, Violet needs to make sure that she has this database of all of her model releases and all of her 2257 docs. Now we're going to get even a little bit more kooky. Let's say, for example, you're a solo model. I'm sure a lot of you are solo models and you're not camming with a partner. Well, let's say you're a solo model. The same thing is going to apply for you. Someone looking to license your content or purchase it is going to need something that actually shows that you're giving them those rights. And a lot of times they're going to ask for model releases even though you're the only person in it. It sounds strange, but this is one of the things that a company is going to need to license or sell your content. So yes, Chris, pay attention. Someone keeps saying, good question, Alexis. So let's see if we can find Alexis's question. Are the 2257 apps legally binding, or does it have to be a paper? Copy? Okay, Alexis, that is a phenomenal question. Now, a couple things that we have to point out. The first thing is that right now, 18 USC 2257 is engorged in litigation. It has been in litigation for probably longer than Colin's been alive, which is a very long time. But 2257, though, for all intents and purposes, it is still valid law. You still need to be complying with your records. So what I always recommend to my clients to do it the smart way is to actually have two sets of 2257 records. One set of 2257 records is in a conventional drawer. When I say a conventional drawer, I can give you guys an example, like opening up a drawer here, and all that you would have in that drawer is 2257 records, nothing else. And then also, if you want to have your digital records as well, that's certainly sufficient. The whole issue of 2257 records has been an ongoing issue for a number of years, obviously, because of the ongoing legal challenge. We haven't seen a 2257 records inspection in a very, very, very long time. I'm actually not aware of a records inspection that's taken place. Also, because the court ruled that you have to actually get a warrant before you can conduct a 2257 records search, the FBI has not been able to go and even do what a conventional 2257 records search would be. Let's see. Brittany Andrews said, happened to me before. Brittany, are you saying that you had a records inspection? Maybe not. Oh, she didn't. I couldn't see what you're saying. I got to get back to you. I'm doing a live stream. I apologize. I should have put a sign on my door, don't come in. Oh, I think she was talking about disconnection. Okay. So to answer your question about 2257 records, going all the way back to Alexis, my suggestion to you would be to have the two versions of it, both the digital and the online and the good old standard file. Now, something about that, another thing that people just seem to forget, and so I'm just going to put it out there. Fire burns paper, my friends. And if the only copy of your records you have is on a piece of paper, and God forbid there's a fire at your apartment, your house, or wherever you maintain your 2257 records, and everything is destroyed, and you don't have some sort of digital backup, well, now you're completely shit out of luck because you can't go backwards and recreate 2257 records. So just something to keep in mind, and one of the reasons why digital backups are always such a good thing. Sorry, I'm trying to... I'm going through the questions here and the talking and trying to get through what are questions versus alternative to a drawer is a locked fire safe. Exactly. I would also like to know if you need a new form for every piece of content created with a partner. My recommendation is yes, and let me tell you why. Danita Vanderspiegel. I think I pronounced her name correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. Okay, at some point or another, you might want to sell or license your content, and certain content you might license to one person and you might not license certain content. If you don't have 2257 documentation for each piece of content that you actually have, how are you going to separate the two? I know it's a pain in the ass, and you know, I'm picking on Colin a lot, but Colin is here and he's been a content producer for a long time. And keeping 2257 records suck. It's a pain in the ass. It's a bitch. But ultimately, it is absolutely 100% worth having everything, having it ready, having it done, and have it the first time. Because if for whatever reason you need to pull out a record, you know, one thing I'll tell you guys, I'll tell you guys, is that oftentimes for my website clients, what we see down the road is we see oftentimes a model changing their mind. And when I say changing their mind, it means that down in the future, all of a sudden they've decided that, you know what, being in adult content wasn't such a good idea. And so what they do is they send an email out saying, the first thing they say is that, oh, I was a minor when the content was created. And they think that by saying that, that's going to get their content pulled down, et cetera. And this is another reason why you guys are going to want to maintain all of your 2257 records, because if for whatever reason any of you ever get into that position where maybe you shot some content with your partner, friend, content trade, what have you, someone comes out and says, well, I was actually 17 years and 8 months at the time, you're going to want those 2257 records, because those 2257 records are like gold. Now, someone said, good question, and I'm trying to see if I missed the question. I don't see it though. So, Julia, is it worth looking for cloud hosting for 2257s that is HIPAA compliant, even if 2257 is not technically healthcare? So that's Julia, that is a great question. And so one thing I would tell you that when it comes to hosting and adult content, a lot of people frequently think that, okay, I can just go, I'll just go host on Amazon, for example. I know that that's popular, but quite frankly, Amazon doesn't know the first thing about adult hosting. They don't know the complexities of involved. I see Brad from Mojo Host is here, so I'll use Mojo Host as the example. We have people at Mojo Host that Brad has set up that are there all the time to deal with the specific, even legal issues that come up with regard to content. When we get government's requests, I'm going to tell you something. If Google or Amazon gets a government request and you're hosting with them, they're just going to give up the information. They're going to spill the beans. If you're with an adult host, they will actually make sure that any government request is legit. Now, you asked about, using cloud hosting for 2257 records that's HIPAA compliant. I would say the answer to that question is yes. And I would also say to you, for those of you that have been reading the news and following all the blogs in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of data breaches. And what we've noticed is that one of the big things that's come out in these data breaches is 2257 records, Julia. So you want to make sure that you have a host that you can say, hey, FYI, what I'm hosting at this particular folder is my 2257 record. So please, take extra security steps, what have you. If you send a message like that to a mainstream host and you say, hey, I need you to take extra precautions to safeguard this particular folder because it has my 2257 records, they're not even going to know what 2257 is. So it's actually, Julie, it's a phenomenal question. And it's one of the reasons why I always tell people that you should be sticking with a host that actually does have experience with adult entertainment and knows what adult entertainment acronyms are. Because again, you'll run into Amazon, you're going to say, hey, 2257, they're not going to know what it is. All right, Vicky Lee. Vicky Lee says, will copywriting our videos and photos help with piracy? And with blogs and our website, is it suggested to trademark our stage names? Yes. All right, let's start with trademarking. Yes, I always suggest trademarking your stage name. I think it's a brilliant idea. I also recommend that you trademark any of your marks or pseudo marks, what have you. Trademarking and copyrights can be daunting, and some people think it's a pain in the ass. But in this age of protecting yourself from the ongoing war with piracy, it is something that should be looked into. So going back to my horrible self-promotion, on the left here at the subscription.adult.law, we have all of these really cool tools that you guys can go in, and where I'll give you guys educational videos on how to copyright, how to trademark, and why. So just so you guys know. But yes, to answer your question, Vicky, I absolutely think it's something you should do. Copywriting your content is absolutely a brilliant thing to do, because again, your content is your gold. It's no different than, I guess the perfect example is if you're in the business of manufacturing screws. Screws is your business. It's your asset. It's what you're going to do everything to protect. In our business, or your business in particular, you guys are cam superstars. See, now I've elevated you. Now you're all cam superstars. So now that you're all cam superstars, what's essential is that as cam superstars, you guys are protecting what is your main product, and that is your content. But it's not just filing for those copyrights and filing for those trademarks. What's important, going back to Vicky's question, is that you're also actually enforcing it. And a lot of times what people think is they think, oh man, there's nothing I can do. I can't go after this tube site. I don't know what to do, etc. That's not the case. There are always options to get content taken down. Is it hard? Yes. Are you guys in a constant fight? I call it a game of whack-a-mole, where you're constantly scouring the internet to see where your content has been stolen. Yes, it's horrible. I think it's wrong. And I hate the fact that you cam performers are stuck with this. But at the end of the day, my recommendation to you is don't get frustrated. Don't give up. And if you do get frustrated, you can always reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with your takedown needs. We do it all the time, even with some of the more complicated tube sites that oftentimes don't respond to you. There are ways to get them to respond if you put enough pressure. But remember, though, it's your content. And so because this is your content, it is your goal. You have to do everything you humanly can to actually protect it. I'm looking at, someone said, so if I trademark my name, should I have a DBA so it's not attached to my name? Vicky, what you can actually do for the trademarking process is you wouldn't actually trademark your name. This is where we go back to the original thing I was talking about, where I was telling you guys to get an LLC. The LLC can actually own the trademark, and that this way they won't be able to track down your real name, assuming you set your LLC up in a state or a jurisdiction that doesn't just give up all the information. And that's where, again, why if you guys watch some of my videos, or you've heard me talk before, I talk often about Delaware LLCs and I talk often about Wyoming LLCs because they offer a higher degree of security. Nevada LLCs actually also, I like them a little bit more day by day. But there are other states like California where I can't stand their Secretary of State. I can't stand what they do because all of your information is very, very public. Let me see what, wow, there's so many, you guys are asking these questions so fast. I'm trying to keep them organized. Did you address the topic of copywriting recorded works? Yes, Colin, had you been listening a few minutes ago, I did say that everyone who is creating content should be going through and actually copywriting their work. Another thing, and this is actually something that you guys should really be thinking about. When you're choosing your cam platform, I mean, cam companies like Chatterbait, Flirt for Free, and I can go on and on about the reputable, the companies that I've worked with. There are companies out there that they will actually work with you. So if you talk to your model manager, or if you talk to your administrator, whoever you work with at the company, and say, listen, I've got a serious problem with this particular site and all the piracy, and you point it out to them, a lot of them will actually use the legal resources they have to fight to get your content down for you. So don't ever, think that you shouldn't be reaching out to your platform to see how much your platform is going to help you. To me, the greatest platforms in the world are going to be the platforms that are going to work with you hand in hand. They're not the platforms that are just going to say, you go shoot, I'm going to be the platform, goodbye. A good platform is not only going to look out for you in terms of having great technology, great support, great marketing, great traffic, but what they're going to have is they're also going to have great resources to help you when you're in a jam, or if your content is getting stolen from all over the damn internet. DMCA notices are an incredible weapon. Sometimes some people get intimidated by them. Again, if you within adult.law, I believe we actually did a whole class on proper DMCA notices. And then if you're not getting a response, one thing as a lawyer that oftentimes happens, even though it's bullshit, and I'll be the first one to admit it, if someone gets a DMCA notice from a model directly, they should respond and they should take down your content. But if for whatever reason they decide not to, and they want to be schmucks and they want to leave your content up, I promise you that the letter coming from me will sometimes have a little bit more, teeth, shall we say, to it. The fun thing is I don't consider myself to be like a mean guy, but it's like, hey, if you fuck with my clients, I'm going to bite you. All right, let me go back to, okay, Jay Augie, excellent question. Where did her question go? Excuse me. Resending. As a content creator, can you get 2257s and releases for content that you've already made if you did it at time of make? Okay, so are you saying, maybe Jay, maybe I'm not understanding your question, but are you saying that all of the documents were originally created and now they've been lost? Oh, didn't. Okay. Technically, Jay, the answer to your question is no. And this is where I get that question all the time. if you don't have the model releases from the time that the content was made, if you don't have the 2257 records from the time it was made, you've got some serious problems. That's where you are going to want to get on the horn with me or another adult entertainment lawyer, someone who's very familiar with adult content licensing, 2257 record keeping, because you're going to have a problem. And it happens a lot. But unfortunately, no, it is. If you didn't have the records then, you do have a substantial problem. And if you don't have the 2257 records to begin with, then you're not complying with 2257. And as all of you probably know, the first offense on 2257 violation is 5 years in federal penitentiary. So I don't think anyone other than Colin actually is looking to hang out in prisons voluntarily. So, okay, so let me go back through these questions. Wow, you guys are amazing. I'm over there's one time. Nikki Doe, Chatterbait is really good as well. However, there is one site just ignoring all the takedown requests. So Nikki, so this is actually another common complaint that we get, where there are a lot of websites, tube sites, blogs, etc., that are taking your content, they're putting it up, they're not taking it down. Like I said, sometimes they need that extra push. And as much as a CAM platform even might try to get them to take it down, sometimes they need that letter from me or from another lawyer telling them, listen, I know what my client's rights are, and you're either going to fucking take this shit down or we're going to force you to take it down somehow. Now, it doesn't always work, but at the same time, it does get to the point where you exhaust all your options. Your last option, of course, is always litigation, that being suing platforms. That gets very expensive. There was a recent change in the law in terms of copyright law. It used to be that you could file a lawsuit while your copyright application with the Federal Registry was pending. That is no longer the case. That has now changed. So until you actually have your federally issued registered copyright of your content, you cannot commence the lawsuit. Otherwise, the lawsuit will be dismissed. Jessica Starling, is there a way to get content taken down on websites that are hosted in foreign countries like Russia? Jessica, the answer to that question is yes, there are. But it's kind of a hit or miss. Some of the websites, if you push in the right direction and you get through to the right people, you will be able to get it taken down. Unfortunately, there are some that no matter how hard you try will do absolutely nothing. And those are the ones that the best thing that you can do is make sure that people know what that site is, so that people are keeping an eye on it to know that that's where their stolen content is ending up. Frequently, what my clients have found, and this is just a little kind of tip here I'm going to give all you guys that I think you might find useful. A lot of those funky websites, when we talk about like some of the Russian sites and some of the Chinese-based sites that are oftentimes, they don't respond to DMCA requests. The reason why people actually find out about them and even get the web addresses to begin with, it's not because they're coming up in Google search engine results. It's actually because people are finding out about them in Reddit. So one thing I would tell you guys that you should be doing as a matter of like kind of brand protection is you should always be going on Reddit at least once a week, typing your name in or your stage name. Actually, don't type your real name in, put in your actual stage name and see what comes up, because that's where a lot of the traffic to those really off kind of Russian sites are coming from. And Reddit, if you do send them a takedown request properly, will then take those links down. So you have to think about it as, okay, if you can't get the content taken down from the infringing site, well, what's the next best thing? Take away the damn link so people can't find that site to begin with. So just a little, tip of the trade. I've done it a couple times and it does work. But to answer your question, Nikki, it wasn't a question, but yeah, keep an eye, search yourself on Reddit on a regular basis, because if you're searching for yourself on Reddit on a regular basis, you'll often find that that's where you can start by killing a lot of the links. Otherwise, if your content is up somewhere else and it's some platform no one knows about, you're not going to have to really worry about it. But yes, Vicky, your comment is very spot on. All right, how are we doing? We're 1:45. We're doing well for time. We've covered a bunch of the topics I wanted to talk about today. Okay, there's another topic that I wanted to talk about that has become a little bit more of a sensitive issue, but I do want to talk about it, especially for those of you who are cam models that are creating content with your partners, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, spouses, friends. Maybe you're creating it with Chris Young, who knows? if you're doing that, something that's very important is that you have raw footage of the entire session. Now, when you say, well, Corey, what does that mean? We're on cams. Well, this is going to sound nuts, but what I always recommend to my clients now is that you actually have a camera running from the moment that you guys start, that the person you're going to shoot with walks in the door to the end. If you guys have been following the Girls Do Porn case from out in New York, you've got a lot of people that are in federal holding right now, and that are basically they're going to be in federal prison probably potentially for the rest of their lives. And so what's essential is that you want to make sure that you don't get put into a position where potentially down the road, someone who's part of a consensual shoot comes back and says, I didn't sign the model release. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was drunk. I was high, what have you. And so what I've been recommending for all of my clients is before you start any shoot, before you go live, you have raw footage of a script. I call it a pre-production, post-production script. And it's a list of questions that you ask the participant on raw footage to answer before you start shooting. This is your insurance policy, folks. I can sit here and talk about this until I'm blue in the face, but 80% of people in the adult entertainment content production area are still not doing this, and you have to be doing this because it could potentially save your life. Remember that ultimately, if you get into a battle down the road with a model or a participant in a consensual sex shoot who later on says it wasn't, what are you going to have? You're going to have a he said versus she said, or he said versus he said, and you're not going to have anything to back it up. But if you go through what I recommend and you actually have a list of questions that you record the other person answering, it can literally save your life and be the difference between you ending up in federal jail or state jail versus you being able to continue on and have a very successful business in the adult entertainment industry. Julia, that is an excellent question. Should the raw footage camera be hidden or in plain view? It should be in plain view. It should be clear as day. All participants should know right from the start, hey, you're being filmed from the moment you get in. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go and put a potty camera in Chris Young's bathroom while he's getting ready for his shoot. Nothing goofy like that. No cameras under the table. I'm talking about just having a camera recording the entire interaction between everyone who's going to be shooting and who ultimately is going to be on screen. And then you have that. That is your insurance. So Julia, that is an excellent question. But no, you don't want to make it a secret recording because that actually opens up a whole other can of worms that I would prefer you guys don't get into. Is there an article or blog somewhere talking about this? Would love to share it with friends who can. Yes, Amelia, if you go on to adult.law, I have both videos on it and I have articles on it. So both of those are right there. Lily Craven, what if you shoot and do a trade of content for payment and they don't trade? Okay, that's a huge problem, Lily. Now, is it a sexual violation? No. What it is it's actually a contractual violation. In order to have a legally binding contract, there are three things that you need. Someone needs to make an offer, someone needs to accept that offer, and there needs to be consideration. Consideration could be money, it could be a content trade, it could be a tractor, it could be a set of these pens, it could be anything. But if you don't have the consideration, you no longer have a valid contract. Thus, if you do a content trade with someone, Lily, and they don't pay you what they're supposed to be, the rights that you gave them are invalid and they no longer have the rights to use that content. And this is actually one of the reasons why, Lily, I always recommend if you're doing content trades, please put it in writing. You do not want to leave this down to a matter of interpretation in a court where one side says, well, he agreed to this and she agreed to that. You don't want to be in that position. You want to be in a position where you have a nice, clean piece of paper that says exactly who's supposed to do what they're supposed to be paid, when it's supposed to be produced. If you get yourself into a position where you don't have it, you're really going to be potentially hurting yourself. Is $1 enough or can it be free? Brittany, phenomenal question. I've seen people do that, like, where they go, okay, well, here's the $1, so there's no issue of payment. You can get into, if you start getting into like deep contract law, you start getting into, okay, well, what is valuable consideration? And is $1 sufficient to constitute, as the legal term goes, valuable consideration? I wouldn't suggest it. I would say if you're going to do something like that, I'd be safer. I'd probably do something like $20. I think a dollar is obviously stupid, and I think it potentially cause a problem. That's an excellent question. What if it's a content trade for the camera guy? Again, Brittany, if that's the case, then again, you need the contracts in writing, and you need to make it very clear who's actually going to get to own the content and do whatever they want with it. So if there's no payment and it's a trade with the camera guy, again, got to be in writing. I set up deals for cam stars all over the world almost on a daily basis for that. It's literally just a matter of contracts. It is not the most complex thing in the world, but I highly recommend it. But Brittany, great question. Now, is that, what's funny, guys? It's funny. I keep seeing Brittany. I actually met Brittany in Miami 15. I think I've known Brittany for 15, 16 years now. I think the first time I met her was in it was a 2008, Brad. Was that it? Brad might know better, but yeah, it was it's funny. I was picturing you in front of the that hotel in Hollywood. It goes way back. No, it was before Phoenix. Before Phoenix Forum, Brad. It was way back. I retired in 08. I didn't know you were retired. All right. So now let me see. We got another one. Now off topic, but sending again. Corey, I have been looking into trademarking my name since one of your clip for sale sessions. Would I be able to find local Canadian lawyers to help with this? Lark, what you can do is if you're looking for a specific Canadian trademark lawyer, you can actually send me an email address. It's pretty simple. My email is Corey@SilversteinLegal.com. I'm just typing it in right there for everyone to have. And actually what I would do for you, Lark, is I have someone, depending on what province you're in, you don't have to disclose it, here because we're in a public forum, but depending on what province you're in Canada, I have different resources in different provinces that could assist you with the Canadian trademark. So I'm sorry that, Lark, I apologize it took me that long to answer your question, but I hope I answered your question now. Oh, Brittany says I'm back. Okay, so she didn't retire. Nikki Doe, can an LLC for a brand cover multiple projects like an umbrella? Nikki, that is an awesome question, and I'm going to answer it like this. You should never put all of your eggs into one basket. One of the beauty of an LLC is that it stands all by itself. So if you put multiple projects into one LLC, let's say one of your projects ends up getting sued, all of the assets within that LLC are now subject to being potential liabilities in that lawsuit. So if you've got, three different pay sites, and then on the side of that you have a social media presence, what have you, separate them. It is so cheap to form LLCs, and the accounting costs associated with LLCs are so cheap that it only makes sense to set up as many LLCs as you can so that they're split into different projects. Now, what some people do, if you want to overcomplicate it, is you could have one kind of master LLC that owns sub LLCs, and you could really start getting into some really complex business formation. But before you start, blowing it up too, beyond, I would say, talk to me individually, tell me about the different projects you're involved in so we can talk about what might be the best strategy. 29 isn't old. Jimmy, of course. I thought my old friend Wizzo was actually going to ask a question, but no, he's just commenting on Brittany Andrews' age. Thanks for that, Jimmy. I'm sure she appreciates it. Nikki, so just like bars. Exactly, just like bars or real estate. If any of you are in the real estate game and you have rental properties, you know that every single rental property that you own should always be kept in a separate LLC. No different than your adult brands. If you have 10 different pay sites, frequently people want to separate it. Another big thing you could do is you could actually separate the entity that owns the content versus the entity that actually puts the content out there. That way, if for some reason, let's say your website gets sued and say you even lose the case and something bad happens, well, your content is still safe because the ownership of the content is actually nice, safe, and sound in a separate LLC. So just something to think about. And that's another good question. No, Cactus, do not put them together. Keep them separate. That's my free advice for you for the day. Gia, how do you keep them from disclosing your name if you register in a state that discloses this info? This is why I was telling you, Gia, that what you should be doing is you should not just be picking any random LLC. There are various different states where even as an out-of-stater, such as Delaware, Wyoming, Nevada, where their public searches are extremely limited in terms of what information about you they can find. So say, for example, you're trying to protect your name, which you should be. There's certain states that you don't want to be in because you have to actually disclose who the members of the LLC are. But in Delaware, which again, very easy to set up Delaware LLCs, Delaware does not require you in the public record to disclose who the owner is. All you've got to disclose is who is the resident agent, who is the agent who is willing to accept service of process should it become necessary. Brittany, I'm almost 50 and earned every, okay, I'm back on Brittany. Great question. But Corey, how are you getting around the city license, which discloses your legal name? Well, Jen, that depends where you're shooting. Jen, I'm assuming you're talking about, you're obviously talking about, I think you're talking about Los Angeles. And if you are talking about Los Angeles, I have a whole other conversation that I would want to have. And I've had presentations about it before. You're in Seattle. I don't know why you're getting the city license, but Jen, what I would tell you to do is afterwards, feel free to drop me an email or give me a call. All of my contact information, you guys can find me at myadultattorney.com. That's my main site. Adult.law, which is the new brand we talked about earlier, also has my contact information. But I would be curious, Jen, as to why you're getting a license, a city license. I would need a little bit more information on that. Nikki, is there a signature service you'd recommend over others for release forms for private? A signature service? Nikki, you're gonna have to expand on that question. Sorry, I don't think I know. I don't think I'm understanding your questions. So, can I set up an LLC in Delaware from the UK? Sadie, the answer to your question is yes. Signature services. Like 227, I think. Can I use a PMB to set up my bank account? Wow, you guys are your questions are amazing, but they're coming in so fast. Can I use a PMB, which is a private mailbox, to set up my bank account? Kay, I think you should be fine. It's the PO boxes that frequently are the problems. A PMB is more like a private mailbox that you can get at. They used to be called the UPS stores. I don't know what they're called anymore. They keep changing their names, but PMBs are preferable. Other thing you should note is that if you need to designate a DMCA agent, the U.S. Copyright Office does not allow a PO box. So another reason why you should not be using PO box. So Cactus Flower, excellent question. What's the difference between a PMB and a PO box? A PO box is usually just a mailbox at a post office. So you would put, PO box 2214, Seattle, Washington, what have you. A PMB box are the boxes that you would get at, say, like a UPS store or a FedEx store. It's actually referred to as a private mailbox. So I always would recommend, Brad, you said mailboxes, et cetera. That doesn't exist anymore. But Brad's kind of those are the right examples. Like a UPS store, a FedEx store example would be good examples of where you could get a PMB. GEM virtual addresses are awesome. The only warning I have to give you is that it becomes a problem for 2257 records. That's a much more detailed conversation. But yes, I highly recommend it. So Vicky says, so I can live in Indiana and make a Wyoming LLC, or should I look at my state rules? Vicky, it just so happens that I'm a lot more familiar with Indiana because I actually lived in Indiana for quite some time. And I still, over Indiana, my preference would be a Wyoming or Delaware LLC over Indiana any day of the week. Some co-sharing offices have mailbox services. Yeah, Minnie, that's a good point. One thing, Minnie, that I always think is a really good thing to consider is that for 2257 record purposes, one thing I've often recommended to my clients is find office shares. There are so many places now that, frankly, people just have a sub office to lease. And that's all you really need. You just need an address with a sub office, not a PO box, not a box. So it looks like my friend and colleague Larry Walters finally chimed in. And what Larry pointed out is that banks will do due diligence on the customer. And he's right. So, it might make a lot more sense if you have a like more of an office share type situation than running off and getting the PO box, because that would be a kind of a mistake. All right, so let me keep going through the questions here. Vanna is just saying hello. Well, hi, Vanna. Brittany says, so Regis was great for that. Yeah, Brittany, yeah. I mean, honestly, that is one of those things where it's good. But one of the things that Brittany, that I like my clients to do the best is, again, the office share, where they can have their own little office with its own lock and key that no one else goes into. So, it's just my 2 cents on it, but everybody's different. Minnie, I'm not specifically licensed in Canada, but if you are shooting content, I can help you out with releases depending on where you're located and such. If we have to get a specialist involved in Canada, I have contacts in numerous different provinces throughout Canada. So if there's a specific issue that we have to bring in local counsel in Canada, we can do so. May, if you already set up an LLC with LegalZoom, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I would tell you to do is hire me or hire another adult entertainment lawyer to look over the setup before you start putting it out there. You can always shut down an LLC. It's really not a difficult. Filing articles of dissolution are extremely simple. I think I do it on a daily basis. It's really not a problem at all. Amelia, check local laws for using leased office addresses like Regis. Some jurisdictions aren't acceptable when forming a company. So Amelia makes a good point. So, and this is again why, Amelia, I try to tell people, look for that office share space. Like, look for more of like where you can just lease a small office space from someone else versus Regis. But Amelia, it's a great point. Nikki, I don't know why you're asking Juicy Ads that question. I don't even think Jay was in here. Nick, over the past 15 years, the only entity that didn't like my UPS program was the voter registration. Yeah, Nick, Nick, I don't think voter registration would particularly like a UPS store. This is probably a very bad idea. That's really funny, though. Okay. Hang on. So, I mean, you guys these questions are absolutely phenomenal. And I can't thank you guys enough for these absolutely amazing questions. We don't have a moderator in here, and I don't know how long I'm allowed to go. So I can keep talking. If you guys are cool, I can keep talking. If you guys want me to stop, I can stop. But Margot says as long as I want. So all right, we'll go a couple more minutes. Okay, so let's talk about. Wow, you guys are going so fast. Okay, so going back to individual models and some of the biggest concerns. So why don't we do this? So before I just go into like a next topic, do any of you have any specific questions related to content production? Sadie, thank you for the private message, but I have no idea how it works on this platform because I've never used it before. So I'm sure your question is amazing. I just don't know what it is. Hang on, let's see if I can. I don't know where to find it. So, okay, so here's a great question that, oh, you see, look, Connor's trying to take all my people away. See that? All right, well, I'm going to keep talking. All right, so here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna stay here for questions. If you guys want me to continue, I'll stay here and keep answering questions. But for those of you who did come, I want to thank you all for coming today. Thank you for taking part in this session. A reminder, Adult.law, we created this specifically for CAM models. It is, I represent businesses, adult businesses all over the world, but Adult.law was created specifically for models. So check out the site today. We have tons of different subscription plans that'll work. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, it's really simple. You can either follow me or contact me on Twitter, which is @myadultattorney. You can also reach out to me via email, which is Corey@silversteinlegal.com. And of course, I have my Larry Walters, who's also here. Larry and I are off counsel to each other. FirstAmendment.com is our, I don't know what you want to call it, sister site, brother site. I'm not sure what to call it to be politically correct. well, now let me just keep going. What is your Chatterbait handle? That's funny. That's really funny, Jimmy. That's great. Oh, Dan Hogue is here. Yeah, shit, Dan's so old. I didn't know he knew how to use a computer. I figured he'd be using a typewriter or one of those little calculators or something. All right, so just for before I continue, for those of you who are cam models and are still here, can you guys just put in the number 5 and hit enter before I keep talking? Because depending on, oh wow, okay, so we're gonna keep going. Wow, you guys are on fire. That's phenomenal. Okay. Shit. All right, so for you guys at top 5, you that put 5 in, you want me to keep going? Because I had a couple other topics we were going to talk about today. The next one was going to be alcohol and drugs on set and in performances. So what a lot of you have been doing, and this is and just so you guys know, for those of you that said keep going, we actually I have another legal presentation today at 4 o'clock that Larry Walters and I are doing together. We're calling it Bulletproof Your Adult Company from Common Legal Threats. During that session, we'll be talking more about FOSTA SESTA. We'll be talking about the Earn It Act. We'll be talking about a lot of the U.S. government's raging war against human trafficking, sex work, and pornography. So 4 o'clock, tune in for that. So going back, alcohol and drugs on set. There seems to be a little bit, we get a lot of questions about this, either whether it's okay for people who are doing a cam show to be sitting there drinking alcohol, smoking weed, what have you. And I've said this as my answer time and time again, but for some reason, people don't want to listen. Guys, no alcohol and drugs on set, no alcohol and drugs on cams. The reason for this is very simple. Don't create now, if you're alone, obviously, and it's just a solo shoot, it would be difficult for someone to say that, you were forcing yourself into camming. But if you're with a partner, a spouse, anyone else who's actually in the shoot, you want to make sure that you're not in a position where that person can claim that he or she was under the influence and as such didn't actually consent to the acts that went on. This is a big deal. I'm not exactly sure why there's so many cam models that still to this day, they think it's, funny or cool that you've got a couple models and they're drinking themselves into oblivion while they're doing a cam show. I don't think it's smart. Most platforms, almost all the ones I represent, ban it. And if they catch you, they're going to kick you off the site anyway. So that would be so Mimi, that shots for tips thing, I saw that. And if you're alone, I don't have as big of an issue with that. But if you're doing a live shoot and there's more than one person and you guys are doing shots for tips, that is a horrible idea. I see 1,000 different disasters. What Dan Hogue said is the right way to do it. Dan, I don't know if you were here when we started the session today, but I actually talked about pre-shoot and post-shoot interviews. So absolutely, Dan, the fact that you guys do it is brilliant. So Margot, let's talk about Margot, because Margot just asked an excellent question. So Margot says she has a member that has a fetish to drink with me in private. Okay, you're in private, it's one-on-one, so be it. I would just urge you a little bit of caution, because if you have a person, Margot, that's tipping you like huge dollars, and then later on they go to their credit card company and charge it back and said they were so drunk or so high they didn't know what the hell they were going on, or I would be a little bit careful. I actually have one of those cases going on right now. It's a ridiculous case where a gentleman tipped over $250,000 and then charged it all back, saying that he was under the influence and didn't understand what he was doing. So I literally have a case like that. So be very careful. Be very careful with that. Amelia Smith, 2257s are needed more or less globally due to where the content is hosted, typically being the U.S. Amelia, here's the thing with 2257 records. If you're working with a U.S. platform, they're going to require that you keep them. But more importantly, think about it, Amelia, as this is your brand, this is your baby. So if down the line you're going to sell your content or license your content, the first question that anyone who's buying your content or is going to license your content is going to say, please send me your 2257 records. So let's say you're in Germany and you have some ambition to sell your content or what have you, you should absolutely be keeping 2257 records. It is not a complicated thing. Is it a little bit of paperwork? Sure. There's a really cool app that my colleague Larry Walters created. I think it's quick2257.com is the domain. I think I'm double checking just to make sure so I don't misquote it. Yep, there's a cool app that Larry Walters created, quick2257.com. Very handy app that everybody absolutely loves who uses it. The app makes it a lot more simple for people to be using, to be making 2257 records. I mean, Alexis, with the fake intoxication, I would be careful with that because, again, if you're with another person, it's going to come down to that raw footage. Don't get yourself into a position where don't get into a position where down the line you've got to prove whether the person you're shooting content with was intoxicated or not. You want to be in a position where it's absolutely clear that everyone was sober. So if you're running that raw footage that I was talking about earlier, then, bang, you're going to be like, it's your insurance policy. Margot said, I deny drinking alcohol with members, and if I drink by myself and members ask what I'm drinking, I say soda or tea. Yeah, I mean, Margot, that's smart, but you shouldn't be drinking when you're shooting content anyway. It's bad. Allie Awesome says, can models fill bottles with water and pretend it's booze? Okay, so Allie, that is an amazing question. Now, yes, you can. If you're alone, okay, so let's assume, Allie, that you're by yourself, okay, and you're doing that and you're just saying, oh, I'm drunk, it's whatever. You really don't have a big issue to worry about. But if you have a partner or you're shooting with someone else that's there and you guys are both pretending that you're drunk, inebriated, what have you, again, you want to make sure that you have that raw footage and you have in your pre-shoot video, you guys both saying, hey guys, just want to show you this isn't real alcohol, this is water, this is going to be a shoot that's going to involve fake alcohol. So now you have your insurance policy. So you don't have to worry about, to answer your question, Allie, that very second. What you have to worry about is what happens down the line 15 years from now or 20 years from now when that person comes back to you and says, well, I didn't consent to it, I was drunk, go watch the video. All right, so great question, Allie. Somebody asked Larry about his app. He answered the question. Yep, it's 99 cents. Well, okay. So Colin, are you being serious, or are you being? I can never tell with Colin when he's being serious or whether he's being a goofball. So, okay. So seriously, when you guys get into, so now Colin is talking about non-consent. Non-consent is a very dangerous and sticky subject because what really comes down to is you're going to destroy your credit card processor. No credit card processor is going to process anything involving non-consent. Sleeping sites, for those of you like Larry and Colin and some of you other veterans that have been around long enough, you guys remember Dan's Hogue. So if Dan Hogue is here, he'll remember the sleeping sites too. So what you guys got to remember is that way back when the credit card companies made it very clear that they don't want to touch that shit. If there is anything that looks like sleeping models that are out of it, that are, as Colin said, he called it hypnosis, these are areas that you should absolutely stay away from. And I'll tell you something else. If you're on a platform and you think that your platform is going to back you up when they get a notice from the credit card processor saying that this model did this, they're going to throw you off the platform so quick. And if you look at the terms and conditions on Chatterbait, Flirt for Free, and all the big ones, you'll see that in their rules, they generally make it pretty clear that non-consent is absolutely banned. And frankly, guys, it should be. There, as far as I'm concerned, there is no place in adult for that. So, Colin, that's a great point. So, yeah, Colin is going back to 1998. All right. Thank you, Colin. Colin's first porn, he actually had to carve it into a stone tablet with a little hammer. It was kind of funny. Does that also go for age play or adult baby type stuff? No, Alicia, that's a great question. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any specific issue with that sort of stuff. I don't think the only place I would go is if you're talking about age play, where you're talking about, the insinuation of child porn. That's where, the line kind of gets drawn. Almost all the platforms have a zero tolerance for that. A lot of the platforms, I think most of them allow the customers dressing up as a baby and such. Now, what Lark Sienna just said is an amazing point. Never say the age. don't say, hey, here is my my 13-year-old friend or what have you. Obviously, you're just asking for trouble. But most of your platforms really don't want any of that. They don't, their lawyers like myself have specifically advised them to stay away from that stuff, and they should. So I would never recommend to you guys to be getting into that. But Alicia, that is an absolutely phenomenal question. Okay. What about anything water sports? Well, now Alicia, you're killing me here. So water sports is an interesting one. Different platforms, different rules. You're starting to get into the issue of, whether the platform is going to say that any potential obscene content is banned. You're going to have different platforms that are going to allow different things. So that's where I would tell you, Alicia, that before you start getting into the water sports, check with the platform. Most platforms are actually really cool. If you ask them, can I do this? Can I do that? You get in trouble when you do something without asking, and then you end up getting banned if you do something that's against their rules. If you just ask the question, can I do this? They're not going to ban you. So my advice, Alicia, would be asking, Dan, I'm not, Dan, I'm assuming you're being funny. Cactus, again, regarding your content, I would make sure that your platform is okay with it. I would be very careful with what you put on social media. If you're putting any P content specifically on social media, I would tell you that you are living extremely dangerously, and your social media accounts could be in imminent danger. Alexis, correct. Good point. Margot, Alicia. Let me see what Margot said. Alicia Cross, how they guess it is water or real stuff. In most cases, squirt is allowed, and it's related with the rain. Margot, that's a good point. It's a very good point, and it is incredible how we have become such a overly sensitive society that I guess in one sense, squirting is allowed, but yet pee is not. It's actually a very interesting thought. Cactus says, yeah, sometimes they squirt instead of me. Okay. Okay, I'm not even going where Colin's going now. For social media, don't share photos of streams. Lark, here's the thing with social media that I found now, and this is like, obviously we all know, Facebook, don't even try anything. But Twitter has been very weird lately. I've got clients who have been saying they've been posting crazy stuff and absolutely nothing's happening. Then I've got others who are saying they simply had a topless picture and they immediately got kicked. So with regard to social media, like I said when I originally started today's presentation, social media backup is key. And you always, if you are a cam star, you have to go under the assumption that one day you might have full access to your social media and the next day it might be completely gone. So if you're not backing it up and making sure that you have an ability to contact every single one of your followers, members, friends, etc., you're just shooting yourself. Colin, that is correct. Now you're very into the world of obscenity. And of course, we have Larry Walters here, who is one of the leading experts in obscenity in the US. Michael Max, what if my content, whoa, you guys are going too fast. What if my content is shared to a jurisdiction that sees it as obscenity, but my home jurisdiction? Michael, that is a very interesting question. And that again, obscenity prosecutions and I'm going to quote my friend Larry Walters on this one, is like a lightning strike. You never know when and where it's going to hit. And so trying to predict where or when a jurisdiction is going to, an obscenity federal prosecution is going to pop up, good luck, because as much as we've tried over the years to try to guess and figure it out, it's impossible to predict. If I had I wonder if this works. I tried to do something, but it didn't work. Might go for the max hardcore about jurisdictions. Well, Colin, max hardcore is only one. That's one example. Nick, So here, Nick, here's the things with animals. Okay, so the thing with animals, Nick, is that I always tell people, look, if you've got your cat walking in the background, it's one thing, but if you get into a situation where you're shooting and all of a sudden you have, your dog is licking your genitals or what have you. That's bestiality. The answer is no. You're going to get thrown off your platform. You shouldn't be doing it anyway because you're just asking for trouble. Lark, that's a, the difference is, I'm assuming, Lark, you're talking about your cat. And in that case, it's one thing for a cat to be like walking around versus your cat, jumping on you, and potentially some sort of inappropriate act going on. Isn't checking the content. Colin Hollywood do a rule is everybody. My God, I actually tell models to remove the cat. I mean, honestly, Nick, that's what I would do. But I would tell you that, like, I wouldn't say that, like, it's going to be the absolute end of the world. Like, the world's not going to explode if you happen to, if there's like a cat like walking in the background. I don't think that's going to be the end of the all. So one thing, I guess, one last thing I wanted to talk about that was on my list here I made is for those of you that are camming, about what you guys have on your cam set. Meaning, if you're on your cam set and you guys have a giant poster in the background of Coca-Cola's logo, or you've got some other logo, symbol, trademark, something that's there, I would recommend to you guys highly that you not have anything like that. Same thing goes with music. I would not have in your productions. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have like the latest Kanye West song going. The only reason I even picked him is because he's all over the damn news now with his apparent bid for president. But you guys should not be in a position where you have on your set, there should be no pictures. No, Colin, that's not completely correct. They can have music, but it can be, there's different music there's different music they can buy, Colin, online. They can actually buy licensed stock music is specifically what I'm talking about. So I wouldn't say music is no, but I wouldn't be, again, if you might make Kanye mad if you've got his newest song going in the background of your presentation. Alexis, Wonder Woman stuff. If you mean like costumes and such, I think you'll be fine. But if you're talking about like having the original Wonder Woman comic book cover in the background, that could be a problem. But if you're just dressing up and like, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. That would be more parody than anything. So I don't think you'd have an issue there. Fioma, no, in terms of stock music, God, there's so many different sites now. The one thing I would tell you though is just make sure that they're adult friendly. There are some stock music services that specifically ban the use in adult. Hell, I'm sure Colin probably has one that he could recommend. No, you can't just buy the music. Just because you have the license to it doesn't necessarily mean that they'd be okay with their music being used in an adult production. That is an amazing point, Ruby. And Amelia, the point you just made is also spot on. So with regard to that, again, guys, especially in the background, I've seen some of the stuff that I've seen that we still see sometimes. Like don't have Disney posters in the background of The Lion King and Cinderella and Snow White and such. It's just not a good idea. Jen, to answer your question, it will be in their terms. And so, as you can see, as I suspected, Colin was going to provide one that actually is friendly, and there you go. There right away he has one. But the terms will usually say specifically whether they are adult friendly or whether they're not. I have a toilet video where I'm reading Ghostwriter comic. Should I blur that? Sadie, I would actually probably blur that comic. It says Gmail. Amelia makes a good point. So, all right, guys, I've gone pretty much almost a half hour longer than I think they wanted me to, and I have to actually start preparing for our 4 o'clock that we're going to be doing in an hour and a half from now. So for those of you that tuned in today, a couple different things. One, of course, I want to thank all of you for coming today and listening to me and being part of this presentation. Your questions have been phenomenal. Your presentations have been phenomenal. I can't compliment all of you enough on the amazing on the amazing participation. I'll always be here for you guys. This is what I've dedicated my practice to. This is what my professional life is. So if you guys need to get a hold of me, you can get me on Twitter at myadultattorney. You can get me online at myadultattorney.com. Of course, take a look at adult.law. It's an amazing product, and we have very affordable rates. Again, this was a platform that I created specifically on models telling me, hey, they couldn't afford the big, huge retainers. Margot, I do have an Instagram, but I have a funny story about Instagram. When I tried to use My Adult Attorney on Instagram, Instagram actually banned me. So now I do have an Instagram. I think it's just my name, but I'm not completely sure on that one. But for those of you that have questions afterwards, you can always shoot me an email. You can contact me on the website. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm always happy to help out. Yes, thank you, Colin, for being here and helping us out with some of these questions. And again, for all of you that are taking part in the YNOT Summit, please be online again, 4 o'clock. It's in an hour and a half from now. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the different laws and legislation going on right now. We're going to talk about FOSTA. We're going to talk about the EARNed Act. We're going to talk about all of these huge laws. It'll be a little bit more technical in nature, but I think it's a can't miss event, and I really hope that you guys got something out of this, and I hope you'll get something out of the next one. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here today. See, my Instagram is at Corey Silverstein. See, there you go. Someone found it for me. But again, thank you all so much for coming here and being part of this session today. And I look forward to anything I can do for any of you guys. Just remind me that you came and were part of today's session, and you'll put a smile on my face. So thank you all. Truly appreciate it. And of course, everyone stay safe during these crazy pandemic times.